Hi there, Wayne Williams here from Profunda Analytics. Today we're going to teach you how to make the most effective use of our voice control system. First, it's important to understand how our voice control technology works. When you speak into your microphone, we send your voice command first to the Google Speech API in the cloud, which is the same platform that handles Google's internet speech searches. Google then sends us back their interpretation of what you said. In personal use, Google Speech's interpretation has an error rate of less than 5% because a lot of the terms that people use in personal searches, such as find nearest Italian restaurant, are commonly understood. However, business terminology is quite a bit more challenging and can even be counterintuitive. For example, a business product name might involve two or more words that are not normally combined, and this may fool Google Speech. In our experience, Google's error rate with business terminology is around 10%. To counter this problem, we use two technologies. The first is a user override mechanism. Individual users sometimes struggle with the pronunciation of certain words or phrases, or they might commonly run two words together out of habit. In these cases, Google will likely return the wrong interpretation. When this happens, we allow users to correct Google's interpretation of their words. For example, if a user says, "add other surgeries" to filter data for other surgeries, Google might return "add are there surgeries" or "add Arthur surgeries." Users can correct this mistake and Profunda will remember the correction from that point forward. This is helpful, but by far the most important technology in correcting speech errors is our proprietary phonetic matching algorithm. In short, when we receive Google's interpretation of a voice command, we convert it to a phonetic pattern, which we then match to the phonetic patterns of all the words found in the client's business database. This is by far a much more accurate form of matching because while Google often gets the words wrong, it seldom gets the sounds wrong. For example, if you said "add other surgeries" and Google returned "add Arthur surgeries," Profunda would still match to other surgeries based on phonetic patterns, even without any kind of user override. However, if Google sent back "add Arthur surgeries," Profunda may not make the match because Google has returned too many words. In this case, after we send the results back to the dashboard, the user can add an override. And the next time Google sends back that incorrect phrase, Profunda will correct it even before the phonetic match. Okay, now that you understand the basic process, we want to introduce you to your best friend when it comes to voice control. In addition to voice overrides, we also have an initial voice calibration process. This is basically a training program that teaches Profunda how you say keywords and phrases. Let me show you how that works. When you first start using Profunda, you should navigate to this main page and click this voice calibration panel here. This will launch the voice calibration dashboard. The moment it launches, it will present you with a word or phrase. All you have to do is say that word or phrase into your microphone and the process will automatically repeat itself like this. Add, pan, remove, run, show, zoom, 0-3. If you get interrupted or tired, just click the close button as you saw me do, and the next time you run voice calibration, it will pick up exactly where you left off. For a medical clinic, there are typically 200 or so keywords and phrases. If you run straight through in one pass, it will take you roughly 8 minutes. The system is designed to perform 3 passes, so you'll need to invest 25 minutes or so to train it for your voice. As mentioned, however, this can be done all in one session, or you can break it into a minute here, a minute there, whatever is convenient for you. When you have finished the calibration process, the system will inform you of this. To demonstrate the effectiveness of calibration, we can open the pivot analysis and try a broad range of command statements. First, we turn on the microphone. Add doctor. Add cataract surgeries. Add Camelot ESC. Add Tuesday. I don't want to bore you by showing you my complete test, but I started with a new system, completed all 3 passes of the calibration process, then issued 100 random voice commands to the system. The system got 97 of those correct. To get closer to 100%, we can use the manual override system. However, before we do that, I want to explain a few more things about the voice system. As the help system explains, Profunda uses only 4 core commands. Add adds an element to the current dashboard. Remove removes an element from the current dashboard. Show navigates to another dashboard. And run runs a program such as an AI analysis program. This simplicity makes it easy for users to choose their first word in a command statement, but it's also important to Profunda because the system expects your first word to be a command. In fact, if the first word is anything other than a legitimate command, it will trigger a command error. After the command, the most basic form of a command statement expects a data value for a basic structure like this. An example of this basic structure is a command statement like add doctor. If the system gets a valid command but an invalid data value, it will trigger a data error. Let's give you an example of each. Let's say that instead of add, I chop the word short and it comes across as at visits. As you can see, the system detects a command error and provides you with an opportunity to provide an override. It tells you the text heard was at, gives you an opportunity to specify what text you want to replace. Now in this case it's obvious, but in the case of multi-word statements it would not be so obvious. So the text we want to replace in this case is at, and our replacement text is going to be add. And then we simply hit the record button after, and it will not only record this override, it will actually execute the command. Now watch what happens if I make the same mistake a second time. At patients. This time, it treated at as add without your intervention. A similar mechanism exists for data errors. Add carrier name. What I'm going to do is purposely leave the WPS out of this fairly long name, TriWest Claims, WPS. It's really VACAA, it's an acronym. But I'm going to leave WPS out, and I'm going to mispronounce VACA, and we'll see what the system does. Add TriWest Claims VECA. So as you can see, the system detected a data error situation. It heard the text TriWest Claims VECA. And I'm afforded the opportunity here now to tell it what I want to replace. Now I could just say replace, BECA. However, you've got to be really careful if you're going to put single words in here. You've got to ensure that they're universal words that you'd want to replace everywhere. An example would be that if you wanted to replace the word versus with VS because you knew that VS, the short form of versus, was used everywhere in the database. That would be an acceptable situation to use one word. Otherwise, you should be explicit just to be safe, and that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to type in replace TriWest Claims VECA, and actually capitalization doesn't matter, with TriWest Claims WPS VECA. I record that.
Now we'll demonstrate that the override is in place by repeating the process.
Remove TriWest Claims WPS VECA. Add TriWest Claims VECA.
So once again, you can see that it has remembered and applied my correction. There are 2 other override scenarios that you should be aware of. First, let's say that we encounter a complex name and we mess it up a bit, such that Profunda finds a match for the wrong value. As you can see, the carrier name in this row that I've highlighted here is quite complex. It has an acronym at the beginning, another one at the end, and it blends 2 words together, Medicare and Complete, into one word in the middle. Let's try to use it. Add ARP Medicare Complete UHC. As you can see, what's happened is that Profunda has selected UHC Dual Complete Medicaid instead of the value you wanted. This doesn't happen very often, but the complexity of the name is enough to fool Profunda. When this happens, you can simply click the edit symbol and enter your override here as usual. In other words, the edit symbol allows you to provide an override for the most recent command statement. Instead of taking the time to do that, I'm going to show you the last type of override. This is one merely of convenience. As mentioned earlier, one of the system's base commands is show. This can be combined with the dashboard name back to navigate backward. But the phrase show back seems unnatural to me. I prefer to use go back, even though that's not officially a command. To do this, I simply speak or type go back. This triggers a command error, which I can use to provide the desired override by telling the system to replace go with show. Now in this case, when the system attempts to execute the command, it tells me that there is no navigation history prior to this point, but that doesn't matter because it has still recorded the override. So if I navigate to a second dashboard, I can now use my personalized command to navigate backward. Remove all filters. Show trend 3. Go back. You can override this way to personalize many aspects of Profunda, including creating short forms for long names and so on. Okay, one last feature to describe. Let's say that you implement the wrong override by mistake, or an override that has unintended consequences, or maybe Profunda does something that makes you wonder if an override is in place. To deal with all of these situations, just say or type show override. This will open up a second dashboard that lists all of the overrides currently in effect for you. Note on the right-hand side here that these include both your personal overrides as well as any global overrides that come with the system. To modify or delete an override, just right-click it and choose the option Modify or Delete. Note that you cannot modify or delete global overrides. We're now going to finish this training video with a couple of important tips you should follow to ensure a good voice control experience. First, use a good microphone or headset. Remember, the challenge when using business terms is a lot greater than the one you face when yelling across the room to ask Alexa what time it is. Every advantage helps, and that starts with a good microphone. 2, try to remember to clearly delineate each word as you speak. Avoid running words together. This is probably the #1 cause of voice accuracy issues. 3, it's the sounds you make that count, so focus on your syllables and consonants. For example, the word remember has 3 distinct sounds, re, mem, and bur. Try to emphasize those when speaking commands. Be patient. This is as much about training you as it is the system. You'll likely struggle a bit out of the gate, but as you use overrides and experience longer periods without an error, you'll begin to notice what you've done wrong to cause an error, such as speaking too quickly. As you adjust, your experience will continue to improve over time. Finally, if you have problems with a tricky word or phrase, you can always just type it. And that's it. I hope you have found this training video helpful.